In the previous video, we looked at the basic view of Arlo integrations, and if you haven't already done so, it would be worth checking that video out just to familiarise yourself with the process. But just a reminder that integrations are mappings between Arlo events or e-learning events and LearnDash groups and courses. In this video, we're going to look at the advanced view, which is similar but intended for people who have more courses, more events in Arlo and potentially just constantly run Arlo events. And they need a more structured way, a more comprehensive way of mapping and finding Arlo events. If you imagine in the basic view, if you had 100 mapped events, this would be a very long page, and the advanced view aims to simplify that for anyone with lots of events. So let's switch to the advanced view by clicking on this button here at the top. And you'll see that it's a slimmed down view here where each mapped event would have its own row of this table here. And this is a paginated table, so if you've got hundreds of events, there will be pages of these. It also has the option to filter events by certain things like their Arlo ID, LearnDash ID, the types, so you could show only events or online, as well as LearnDash types such as courses and groups. If you ever wanted to switch back to the basic view, you can do so by clicking this button at the top, but once you've switched, it will default to this every time you visit the integrations page. Now, as well as listing the integrations differently, you can also, the process of creating new ones is also slightly more comprehensive. And what we do is create new. And because you're using the advanced view, you probably have lots of Arlo events and need some way to filter these. And that's what this does here. This is an Arlo event search. So rather than just listing all of the events you have available, this allows you to choose whether you want events or e-learning. So say we chose events, and we can then choose between certain dates. So you could say a date range here, and then search the Arlo events, and it will bring up all of the events here. So by default, it only lists events that aren't already mapped to courses. So this might help slim down the list, because if you have events that are already mapped to LearnDash courses and groups, as long as this is ticked, they won't appear in this list. But if you did ever want those to appear, so you might want to map one event to multiple items in LearnDash, you can untick that and search, and it would bring up additional options here like this one that are already mapped. So this is the one we mapped in the previous video on the basic integration. So by default, we probably want to keep that ticked just so that you're not filling this list with lots of other stuff. The other option here is to show whether you want non-completed events or completed events. And ordinarily, you probably only want to be mapping events that have not already been completed, as in events that are in the future. But if you ever did want to do something retrospectively with previous events, you can do that by choosing this option here. And I'll just remove this date range here just to show you how this works. And this will just list all completed events. So all of these events have already happened, but you can still map those to LearnDash courses and groups if you ever wanted to. What I'm going to do is choose e-learning here and search the e-learning courses. And I'm going to map one of these to a LearnDash course. So I'll map this one here. It's called Online Course Using Google Analytics. And I want to map this to a course. And I can choose my course here using Google Analytics. You can choose here whether you want the Arlo status to be marked as complete when anyone who is in this mapped integration completes this using Google Analytics course. So what would happen is when they complete that course, it would mark their registration as complete in Arlo as well. And you can also choose whether or not you want this to be active. So we can click Save Integration now, and that will now be created. Now this is created here, As I mentioned in the previous video, what it will do is search for any new users who are registered onto this e-learning course every 5 minutes. And if there are some new ones within the last 5 minutes, it will bring them in and register them onto this course. If you want to bring anyone who's already in that event across, who was perhaps already in when you created this integration, what you can do is click on this actions here and then click on this import historical. So it's similar to what we did in the basic view, and it works in a very similar way where it will run and bring in all the existing users within that Arlo event into your LearnDash platform and register them onto this LearnDash course. Once that runs, it will tick and then refresh the page, and we'll see that we now have 5 registrants here that have just been brought in from that course. The last thing we'll show you here is that you can also edit an item here. So if you wanted to change an integration, you can choose edit and change some of the options here. So you might be able to make it inactive or change the completion status, or map this to a quiz like we did in the previous video, where you say when someone completes this quiz, it will update Arlo and pass in that grade, and we can choose either the latest grade that they got or the highest grade that you achieved. And what will happen is when someone completes that quiz, it will automatically pass that grade back to Arlo alongside their registration. I'll just cancel that, and the last thing we can do, we can delete integrations as well here if we want to, and they will just be removed from this. And like I say, if you ever wanted to switch back to the basic view, all you do is choose the option from the top and we can go back to how we were before.